Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rich Bowers, and today we are talking about digital twins, and I have the perfect guest with us. Christina Torres is actually just coming off of a session where she was training Gen AI to an Ivy League school, and this was one of the topics that they brought on up. So, Christina, we are happy to have you here this morning. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you today, Rich?
I'm doing great, and the timing could not be better. I don't know if you noticed, I'm sure you have, but recently Forbes has shared a handful of articles on digital twins, and one just this week was titled Seeing is Believing How Virtual Twins Are Making Digital Twin Technology a Reality. So, what we're going to cover today is going to be talking about virtual twins, digital twins, and the benefits of it overall. But let's start at the very beginning, right? Christina, can you break down what is a digital twin? What do we need to know to kick us off here?
So, a digital twin is going to be a virtual replica of some real world object or process. And we can take that digital twin or that replica and plug in some real live stream of data in order to enrich the analysis that we pull from it.
Very cool. And now digital twins has been around for a little while. It started getting popular with the Internet of Things when you had like the devices that tracked everything. And then you had another increase of interest during the heyday of the metaverse, as you can imagine, especially when Christina's talking about virtual representations of physical objects. And now it's coming back again because of maybe AI. So these digital twins, they really represent a physical object. It also could be a system or process. Right? What are some benefits to them? Why are we trying to use them and why do they keep coming on up here?
Okay, so let's look at this through an example. Say you are constructing a building and you're in the initial stages of planning. You have to gather a bunch of different points in order to outline what you have to do. So, like, say what type of material you want to build the building out of, how many floors you want in the building, and what type of inspections you need to get done. When you initially gather it, it may be in a spreadsheet, which I don't know about you. Looking at a spreadsheet is very difficult in a short amount of time to like quickly grasp what you're actually building out. And
Mhm.
that's true for a lot of people that are actually building that out. So to make it clearer, it's nice to have, say, a blueprint where that guides you along on what the end product should look like. But we can make it even better by turning that into a 3D model and taking that 3D model and plugging in some live stream data about like what we are actually building and how it's turning out to look. So you can visualize what will the floors look like with the color that you've chosen or the wood that you've chosen, how tall it's going to be, get some live data points on like what is the current type of inspection that you have to get done. And this just makes it easier for everybody in the process of building this. You can send that information out to stakeholders and they can view the building without actually having to be there and get a real sense of like how the progress is going. You can send this out to your team that's actually responsible for building things and they can easily swap out data points. That way you can get a updated view on how does the building look if I make it taller or shorter.
How cool is that, right? So you're telling me it grabs all these different data points. So maybe existing records, IoT wearable devices, or whatever it may be in your example, and obviously the web and things that you put in Excel sheets. It's a visualization tool, right? However, where it becomes more techy is you start kind of picturing it. When you're explaining this to me, I start picturing it like I'm watching one of those sci-fi movies or futuristic movies where they press a button and boom, like the whole landscape pops on up virtually and they could spin it around and move things around, right? So the beauty of it is it takes all this data, visualizes it, able to share easily with others who aren't there. And then I believe you could do a little bit of simulations. But before we get to that simulation piece, let's tie this all in with that article that we started with, right? So let's jump to virtual twins. There are a ton of similarities. However, what are some differences? And then how do they blend together here?
So virtual twins are going to be just like the digital twins, where they're 3D replicas of some real world object or process. But the key difference between them is virtual twins do not actually have to be hooked up to any type of IoT device or live stream of data. They are just the model of the real world object. So we'll typically use virtual twins for stuff like calculations or modeling purposes. Like
Hmm.
in our building example, when we were first building our construction, we actually wouldn't do a digital twin for the initial stages, we'd more likely than not build a virtual twin.
Mm.
A digital twin, though, is always going to be hooked up to that live stream of data to closely replicate the real world object. And it's also going to be used for dynamic predictions or simulations. Think of it
Cool.
like upgraded dynamic virtual twins, digital twins.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So now I get it. The benefit of each. So digital twins tends to be a little bit more potentially siloed data, right? And the virtual twin, it can be typically used for maybe things that aren't even physical. So think of like finances or cyber, like cyber attacks, whatever it may be. And so it takes the siloed data in essence, right? Let's just say a construction of a building, and then it blends it in with those things that are not physically predictable necessarily, right? Like a finance or cyber attacks. And then all of a sudden you get the full blend and scope, right? Of utilizing your data for simulation. So you can play around that says, what happens in this scenario? What if we do this? Instead of actually having to use the real thing and all of a sudden everything crumbles, right? Is basically what the benefits are of using both, correct?
Absolutely. And just a quick fun fact, what you described, we kind of
Yeah.
saw in NASA in the Apollo 13 mission in the 60s before virtual or digital twins were coined.
Oh, cool.
They used the simulation that they used to train the actual astronauts to go into space. They used that to actually guide them when the oxygen tank on Apollo 13 blew up and all of the or all of the computer operated systems went down. They had to manually operate.
Mhm.
On the ground in Houston, they simulated the everything that was happening in space, and they sent them specific instructions on what to do. So
How cool is that?
yeah, right?
Yeah, I think it's actually shown in the movie, right? Is this the part where they're doing like the duct tape and they're saying, "Hey, do this, do that," and everything? I don't know if you've seen the movie with Tom Hanks.
Probably, I got to see the movie because reading
Yeah,
about everything that happened was so interesting. If it's in the movie, I got to check it out now.
and I feel better because it actually seems like it really happened. So, really cool. All right, let's go to our last piece here, and I think it really drives home, our topic of digital twins, right? So let's look at it more as a deeper example. We did the building one. Let's go a little bit even more micro and how digital twins can help with, let's say, a healthcare patient, right? Can you walk us through the steps so that way we can really envision how this can impact us individually at a micro level?
Absolutely. So digital twins, it's really cool in the healthcare sphere because you can kind of make a digital twin of a human. Not kind of, you can make a digital twin of a person. And it's going to start by making what's called a digital thread. And a digital
Hmm.
thread is going to be a collection of all of the medical records, tracking from like health devices like pacemakers or wearable devices, like if you have a Fitbit, I guess,
Cool.
sending all that and connecting it and sending it over to your digital twin or your representation. And then doctors can then use all that information in order to simulate how would you respond to specific medications, or if you are currently battling, say, cancer, they can try out different procedures on your virtual or digital twin and find out which one is going to have the best outcomes considering your specific health circumstances, and then apply that to you. So it significantly lowers risk, and it almost removes the need for doctors to see the person or the patient in person for multiple visits.
And that's amazing because if you think about a lot of the healthcare that is giving, a lot of times it's not really customized to the individual, maybe a certain population of individuals, but never for the individual themselves. So this allows them to try it out. That's really cool. Well, I know we're just about at time here, and it's a lot to digest. Christine, you did such a wonderful job with this. And we'll probably talk more about this as it becomes more and more prevalent in our day to day. But for right now, excellent place to start. So thank you for that, Christina. And for the jump, I'm Rich Bowers. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye.